The views and opinions expressed on Speaking My Mind are solely those of the host and are intended for commentary and discussion purposes. This content is not presented as fact, but as personal perspective. This commentary is protected by the First Amendment.
My name is LB, and I'm speaking my mind. Well, folks, apparently I discovered something dangerous on Facebook. A joke. Not just any joke either. A joke involving Donald Trump, the pearly gates, St. Peter, heaven, hell, and the possibility of somebody getting turned around at the front door. And apparently somewhere between the pearly gates and the Facebook comment section, we went from comedy to theology, from theology to politics, and from politics to questioning somebody's Christianity. Now let me explain what happened. I posted a meme. The premise was basically a humorous hypothetical scenario about President Trump showing up at the gates of heaven and finding out that maybe things don't work quite the way he expected. That's it. It was satire. It wasn't a theological declaration. It wasn't me standing at the gates of heaven with a clipboard saying Donald Trump is going to hell and I have personally confirmed it. I do not have that authority. Neither does anybody else. But apparently some folks looked at the meme and decided, oh no, we need to have church. One person said, shame on you. Another said the post was sick. Another said it wasn't Christian-like. And when we got into the interesting stuff, one commenter basically said that political memes should never include God. Well, that's certainly an opinion. But here's the thing. A joke involving God isn't automatically a theological statement. People have used religious imagery in satire, comedy, political cartoons, movies, television, and literature for centuries. You can dislike it. You can find it offensive. You can scroll past it. But disliking a joke doesn't automatically transform the joke into a doctrine. And that's where this discussion started getting interesting. Because then somebody said, you can't be Christian and be a Democrat. Democrats go against all the Bible. Now hold on. That's a mighty big statement. Because the Bible doesn't say thou shalt be a Republican. It doesn't say Democrats are going to hell. And it certainly doesn't establish the Republican Party as the official political wing of Christianity. That's a political conclusion, not a biblical command. And here's where the irony really kicks in. I was being criticized for supposedly judging somebody, while people were making declarations about my Christianity based on a Facebook post. Think about that for a minute. You shouldn't judge. But then, shame on you. That's not Christian. You can't be a Christian and be a Democrat. Well, wait a minute. Which is it? Are we supposed to leave judgment to God, or are we going to start handing out heavenly membership cards in the Facebook comment section? And somebody even demanded indisputable proof. Indisputable proof of what? That Donald Trump is going to heaven? That he's going to hell? That Democrats aren't Christians? The Republicans are? Folks, nobody on Facebook has that proof. And that's precisely the point. I never claimed to know where Donald Trump or anybody else is going to spend eternity. The meme was a worst-case hypothetical designed to make people think. And if the meme makes you uncomfortable enough to think about your own accountability before God, then maybe the meme accomplished more than you realized. Because here's the part that seems to have gotten lost. We all die. Presidents die. Democrats die. Republicans die. Rich people die. Poor people die. Black people die. White people die. People who voted for Trump die. People who voted against him die. And when that day comes, your political party isn't standing beside you. Your Facebook followers aren't standing beside you. Your MAGA hat isn't standing beside you. My Democratic friends aren't standing beside me. We're all accountable for all our lives. And that's actually where I think the conversation should have gone. Instead of asking, how dare LV posted this? Maybe ask, what does my own life look like? Because Jesus spent an awful lot of time talking about how we treat other people than he did telling us which political party to join. Love your neighbor, show mercy, feed the hungry, help the needy, care for the stranger, forgive, don't be hypocritical, and don't become so consumed with somebody else's sin that you can't see your own. That's the part that gets me. Because some people were offered by a cartoon depicting somebody being judged after death, while simultaneously deciding that they knew enough about somebody else's heart to judge them themselves. Now, let me be fair. Not everybody who disagreed with me was being hateful. One commenter actually clarified her objection wasn't simply because the joke involved Trump. She said she would have found the joke inappropriate regardless of who it was about. I can respect that. You don't have to like my joke. You don't have to laugh. You don't even have to agree with my political perspective. That's America. But there's a difference between saying, I don't think that joke was appropriate, and saying, you can't be a Christian because you disagree with me politically. Those are two completely different conversations. And that's where we need to be careful with our Christianity. Because Christianity is not supposed to be a weapon we pull out whenever somebody posts something we don't like. It's not a political membership card. It's not a license to condemn people. And it's certainly not a certificate giving us God's authority to determine who's going to heaven and who's going to hell. Now, somebody brought up the idea of Pharisees. Now, let me clarify that. I'm not saying everybody who disagrees with me is a Pharisee, but Jesus did repeatedly challenge the religious people who became so focused on judging others that they lost sight of mercy, humility, and their own shortcomings. That's the behavior we ought to examine, not just in other people, in ourselves. And yes, that includes me. Because if I'm going to tell somebody else to examine themselves, I got to be willing to examine myself too. That's what accountability means. So here's my takeaway from this whole Facebook episode. If you don't like my meme, that's okay. If you think it was tasteless, say so. If you think it wasn't funny, that's fine too. But don't take a joke, turn it into a theological declaration, turn it into a declaration into a political judgment, and then turn the political judgment into judgment about somebody's relationship with God. Because you don't know my heart, and I don't know yours. And neither one of us knows what God ultimately sees when he looks at any human being. So before we start throwing stones at somebody else's Facebook post, maybe we should take a good look in the mirror. Because at the end of the day, God gets the last word. Not Facebook, not Donald Trump, not Democrats, not Republicans, not me, not you, God. And if that little cartoon made you uncomfortable enough to think about that for a few minutes, then maybe the joke wasn't quite as meaningless as some people thought. My name is LV, and I have spoken my mind.